in today's video, we are going to take on a challenge to end the Alfa's domination. So stick with us as we try 4 different cars on Daily Race B and see how we get on. Starting off with the NSX. Now, I have a personal opinion that a lot of people are sleeping on a lot of cars for this week's Daily Race B at Suzuka in Group 4. So for those that don't know, the Alfa now is extremely dominant in Group 4. However, we are going to go on a mission to end that dominance with some different cars. Starting off with the NSX here, starting the race and seeing where we can get to. Now remember, if you do enjoy this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, all helps me out. We do content every day. Hopefully we can help you get a little bit faster on Gran Turismo. So you can see one of the downfalls of other cars is the acceleration versus the Alfa. Even off the start, we had to go a little bit defensive there. You could see having to go a little bit cautious into turn 1 because there was a chance that they were going to get us straight away. So that is where the Alfa is extremely strong. It's just pure acceleration out of that car. However, some of these other cars have a very good benefit, and that is cornering speed. Cars like the NSX, the Manan Trophy, they're so quick in the corners. I think they can fight, and I think a lot of people will actually do better if they try some of these other cars, in my personal opinion. I think they're nicer to drive, more enjoyable. So I urge you to try some of the cars I'm trying in this video. So you can see straight away, at this stage, we're starting to just get a little bit closer with the slipstream. Remember, custom slipstream is on, so you do get that benefit on the straight. Now, as we come out of this corner, this is really going to highlight what the problem is with the Alfa. We're 6/10 behind, but just look at that delta increasing. It's absolutely crazy. And by the time we get to the end of the straight, he's basically pulled out a full second there, purely because of that extra pace from acceleration. However, by the time we get to the end of the lap, we are starting to get in that slipstream and we've managed to catch back up there. But again, on the acceleration out of that chicane, he has managed to pull out a little bit of a gap. However, we've now got that first sector coming up, which is where the NSX is quite competitive. Now, I didn't spend too much time. If you wanted to know, we literally just jumped in these cars before the race, had about 3 laps practice, and then took on the Alfa. So with more practice in these individual cars, I'm pretty confident that we could get these cars a lot quicker as well. So, you know, put a bit of effort in time trial. I think there's some cars in this that might surprise you as well with how quick they are around a lap on this track, especially in the race pace. So you can see through here, definitely an advantage being in the NSX. You can see a lot more grip. I have more confidence with the rotation, and you can see the Alfa in front is struggling with a bit of understeer there. Now, we can't really overtake at this point of the track. You're best just sitting back and trying to get as close as you can for the hairpin to either go for a move or to just get a bit of his benefit out on that acceleration phase. The aim here is to get as close as we can after the hairpin so that we can try and get the slipstream going into 130R and try and get a move maybe there or even on the main straight. So again, you can see taking a slightly wider line this time and really trying to get on that throttle nice and early. And again, better this time, but again, you can just see that Alfa slowly fading off into the distance. It's a sight that you will see quite a bit when you're trying to do what we're doing here. But you can see, as we come to the end of the straight before 130R, we've got right up behind this Alfa and then into 130R, you can see the advantage. Much more ability to rotate the car. Now, we're going to have a little look down the left-hand side, but we know we can't get the move done there. So what we're trying to do is compromise the car's exit, because the weaker the car in front exit because of the acceleration, the more chance we've got of possibly going for an overtake at the end of the straight. So picking up the slipstream now, we've compromised his exit slightly there, and we might be able to possibly go for a move. Now, I was quite surprised that he didn't defend this. You can see we go to the right, and maybe he didn't think I was going to go for that, but the NSX is quite strong on top end, and it actually had enough grunt to go down that inside and take the move. He might have just been wanting to get back in the slipstream and try and overtake us later on in the lap possibly, but thankfully for ourselves, we're in the lead. And you can see after that middle sector, which the NSX is quite strong on, we've built up a little bit of a gap there. However, we're coming to that dreaded zone where the Alfa will just close right back up and get right back behind us. You can see it in the mirror, slowly getting bigger and bigger, and you can see the delta coming down and down. It is absolutely crazy just how quick that car is. But again, into the braking zone, braking close to that little bit of tarmac on the right hand side, trying to push the NSX through these corners. This is where we can possibly get a better exit out of this corner, because the Alfa will be quick on acceleration, but it will understeer a bit there as we manage to build that gap up slightly again. And we've got a bit of a cushion now that he's not going to be able to pick up the slipstream and go for a move before the chicane, hopefully. So you can see I'm staying to the left there, just avoid giving him the slipstream, and then into 130R, try and take as much of the corner as we can and carry as much speed through 130R as we physically can, and then into the braking zone. We've got a reasonable gap at this stage. You can see the gap has increased to around half a second there, and we just go a little bit wide there. Now, you do not want to do that. That was a little bit of a mistake, and that is going to give the Alfa the chance to get past us here. So we're going to go defensive on the right hand side. Now, I'm not sure if he tried to fake me here, but I was aware of the fake because I'm known for doing it, and I kept my car all the way to the right hand side, and he ended up just bumping us. Although I'm not sure if he genuinely wanted to bump me there to try and get the slipstream a little bit later in the lap, maybe, because he probably knows that there's strengths of the Alfa, but because of the strength of the NSX, we were able to pull out a little bit of a gap before the hairpin again. But again, into that braking zone, he's going to get that slipstream onto this acceleration zone now. But we get a really good exit this time, and you can see there is a little bit of a gap developed before we get to Spoon Corner, and we're looking like we're going to be able to hold on to P1 before we get to Spoon. However, we still have that straight to defend now. So again, concentrating on the exit speed with the NSX, and we get into Spoon Corner, and we get a really nice run through there, and he runs massively too deep. I think the slipstream caught him out there with the extra pace that you get from the custom slipstream, and after that it was a fairly simple win. You can see we managed to hold on into the chicane and over the line here as we just accelerate out the chicane, and we're going to take a very well-earned win in the NSX. So that is 1-0 to the non-meta cars. The Alfa is 1-0 down. So far so good. We're going to go again, and now we are taking on the Alfa, but we are at the front of the grid, and we are in the Ferrari. Now, this is a car that I've not seen many people using, but if you remember on GT Sport, this car was very, very good at this track. The gearing, everything about this car kind of suits Suzuka. Now, the BOP might not be massively favourable for the Ferrari. However, the Ferrari is still competitive, and I think people are sleeping on this car because we just jumped in with basically 2 laps of practice, and I felt like this car had potential. I have to tell you, if you like the Ferrari, give it a go around Suzuka. Get used to the gears, get used to the way it rotates. Some of the corners you might have to lift and let it coast a bit because it will have a tendency to want to understeer every now and then. But once you get the hang of the Ferrari's handling and the way you have to change the gears, you should be pretty good in this car around this track. I think the Ferrari has massive potential. You can see through that first sector again, we've managed to pull out a lead to that Alfa. So again, this Ferrari has a strength through the first sector over the Alfa, and the Ferrari's pretty decent on acceleration if you can get it right. It's quite tricky though. This is one thing about the Ferrari, trying to get the traction out of hairpins like this is a little bit trickier as we go through EHD down to first gear, and then a bit of throttle, and then up to second gear. You can see the rear wanted to lose traction, and that's where you're going to have to be careful with cars like the Ferrari, because you just need to get used to them. But once you're fully used to how to drive it, like I'm saying, I did 3 laps practice, I think this has got a lot of potential. Now you can see by the time we finish lap 1 and start lap 2, the Alfa driven behind us by Kentish Gen is gaining on the straight, but it's not got enough grunt there to really get past. The Ferrari is quite strong at the end of the long gears, like by 5th gear it's picking up quite good pace. So at this stage we're able to hold on again, and now we've just got to try and hold on through this first sector, which we all know is where the Ferrari and other cars is pretty strong. You can see the Alfa behind goes a little bit too aggressive there, gets all out of shape with the understeer, and that is going to give me a nice bit of a buffer, hopefully, before we get to the hairpin corner. You can see here going into this left-hand corner, it looks like we've got a pretty solid gap to the Alfa behind. Now at this, like I say, we're still trying to get used to this car at the moment, and as we come into the hairpin corner, you can see we don't get that great of an exit this time. We get a bit more better traction, but I don't really get the power down as early as I would have liked there. You can see that Alfa is gaining and gaining and gaining again. It is like a shark in your mirror, basically. It's just coming for you every time on the acceleration zones. And now we're going to get into that braking zone again, but we've got the inside line, and we know that our car is going to rotate a little bit better than that Alfa, and we've got enough of a gap here to just take the normal racing line. For the car behind to send it there, it would have to be a bit of a dive bomb, and it's very likely to result in a crash. So pretty confident that he wouldn't do that, and we managed to get ourselves onto the straight before 130R, still in the lead of this race. Now he decides to bump draft us here, and we're going to see why, because as we look at the replay camera, he's got another Alfa right up behind him. So playing it quite sensible there by Kentish Gent there. He wants to obviously make sure that he doesn't lose the P2 position, and then we're going to come into that final chicane again, try and hook this up. You can see they're going a little bit deep this time, didn't quite get the line right and ran a little bit wide onto the curb. Again, this is going to slightly compromise. Now we're going to keep the car to the right hand side. I think Kentish Gent didn't realise we were keeping it to the right there, or he might be bump drafting us again. I'm not too sure. He might have actually wanted to bump to save from the car behind, because we can see on the replay camera it is looming there in P3. So again, into turn 1, just trying to rotate that car with the gears, using the gears to rotate it second gear, and then getting on the throttle there in third gear. And now we're coming to the little bit more of a strength area for the Ferrari in that middle sector. And then again, you can see by the time we're getting into the hairpin, we've got a little bit of a gap this time. We've actually pulled out a nice gap to the cars behind, and we get quite a good exit on this lap. And you can see the delta is nearly at 1 second there. Now they are going to gain on this zone as per usual, but if we can get a good exit of Spoon Corner, which we did, by the time we get to the end of the lap, we were pulling away. And you can see here by lap 4, we actually built the gap up to quite a reasonable amount in the Ferrari. You can see our lap time on lap 3 there, 2 minute 10.0, and that wasn't a particularly great lap. So again, I think the Ferrari has potential to get mid 209s in race pace if you do a reasonable run. So definitely worth a shot. So that now makes it 2-0 to the anti-meta cars. This is looking very good, and actually it's kind of making me think, why are people not trying more of these cars out? Because I personally, we're not practicing much in these cars. I get it that the lobbies are not massively stacked, but I still think some of these other cars are pretty good. And now we are back in, and this time we're giving it a go in the Cayman. Now, the Cayman felt really good for me. I really enjoyed this car, I have to say. The handling, absolutely perfect. There is a little bit of caution with the throttle, with the understeer, but again, once you get used to that, you should be okay. So again, you can see having to be cautious at the start. One thing you need to remember with the Cayman is when it starts, you need to shift up to second gear straight away. So be careful with that one. Make sure you're ready to shift it if you're going to use this car. Now, I had to use the replay footage for this race and the next race that's coming up, because for some reason the footage disappeared off my PS5. I'm not sure where it's gone. Someone's robbed it, and I had to just use the replay footage, which doesn't really make that much of a difference, because the only thing you miss out on is the deltas on the left hand side. So built up a little bit of a gap before the hairpin corner, and again, this is our first time in the race coming up to it, and you can see second gear, it feels pretty good on acceleration as well there, and we're managing to keep that gap to P2. But you can see as we come to the hairpin on lap 2, you can see that the Alfa is right up behind us, and we have a big moment with the Cayman there. I tried to get too aggressive to get a really good exit, and I think what the Alfa tried to do there was, I think he wanted to go down the right, but I did this at Deep Forest. The front end on the Alfa is very long. It's a bit like the Viper. It's quite hard to judge, and he ended up just tapping me when he had plenty of space down the right. So I think that was an accidental bump draft there from Kentish Gen, and it meant we could hold on here to the position. Now that is one thing I will say with the Alfa, be careful of when you're racing with it. The front end is very long. I experienced it at Deep Forest a couple of times. I thought I was going to overtake, and I ended up bump drafting the car behind. So yeah, it does catch you out a bit. Now we're going to go side by side into 130R, but you can see we've just about got enough to hold the inside line. We get up onto that curb, give him enough space to take the corner, and luckily for the Cayman, we hold on against the Alfa again here on lap 2. So again, into the final chicane, try and get a really good run off this corner. The Cayman actually pretty nice through there. The third gear shift really helped as we came out that corner, but now we are going to have to go defensive to the right hand side. Now, Kentish Gen doesn't actually look like he's going to try and get in our slipstream. He looks like he's going to try and just hold it on the left hand side, but the Cayman, again, not too bad on that top end as we get into fifth gear there, and we're able to hold on to P1. And then again, we're going to come up to that section of track where the Cayman is going to be a little bit stronger than the Alfa. So we managed to pull away a bit here again, and we skip forward to that hairpin, the dreaded hairpin. This is where you have to be so cautious. No matter what car you drive, if you're coming up against the Alfa, this is the zone where the Alfa is going to catch you up. And you can see in the mirror, he's getting closer and closer, and it looks like I'm possibly going to have to go defensive this time. So again, we're going to go to the left hand side of the track. This time he doesn't misjudge the front end on the Alfa, and he's got the car down the right hand side. However, into the braking zone, the Cayman is very good, and it's really good on the rotation. We managed to hold the inside line and keep that P1, and now we get on that throttle as aggressively as we can all the way over to the left hand side of the track. We're going to make that Alfa go around the right hand side. Now he ends up bump drafting us there, and I think again possibly because there is a car not too far behind him, and when we look behind there, you can see I think he might have also had a penalty on that lap, so he probably chose to bump draft us as well because he had the penalty. There's no point trying to overtake us. And then as we come to it, all we've got to do now is just drive it sensibly. But this being me, I decided to get really aggressive, and I picked myself up a lovely half a second penalty. Now this was panic stations because I really wanted to win in the Cayman, but luckily for us, the pace through the middle sector was really good in the Cayman, and by the time we come to take that penalty, we've got enough of a gap to the cars behind that we're going to hold on here and still take the win, even with the penalty. Now, looking at the lap time, even with the penalty, which loses you at least a second on this track, you can see 2:11.0, so quite consistent with the lap times with that Cayman. I think it, again, could do well into the mid 209s with a solid lap. So again, we're into the next race, and we've actually got Bradley in front of us with the Cayman. I'm in the Manan trophy this time, and we've got a load of Alphas behind us. So this is going to be a bit of a different race because we're going to have to take on the Cayman and the Alphas. So we're going to have to look at attacking whilst being cautious of being attacked from behind. So again, this is really, really interesting with the Manan. I would say, for me, this might be the most potential round here, and some people might be shocked at that, but the Manan through the corners, absolutely incredible. You will enjoy driving this Manan round here once you get used to the way it drives. You can carry so much speed through the corners in the Manan trophy, and even without a slipstream, this car has pace, and I mean serious pace. So yeah, give it a go, try it out, you might enjoy it. And you can see again here, we're putting Bradley under a lot of pressure at the start of this daily race, getting right up behind that Cayman, and you can see the Cayman as well, very fast with Bradley driving it there. And now we've got that dreaded hairpin, but this time we have the advantage of being in a slipstream. And another thing is, the Magan's got quite good low down acceleration, so it's actually not too bad on the corner exits. It's pretty quick at getting out of the corners, and you can see there, we've actually got a decent gap to the cars behind in the mirror. They are going to get closer as they pick up that slipstream. And now as we come into Spoon Corner, Bradley makes a little bit of a mistake here. You can see we brake nice and early, and he goes a little bit too deep, I think, into this corner and gets his right tyre onto that curb. Now, as he's coming through here, he nearly gets it right, but he gets a little bit too aggressive on the throttle, and he gets a bit of understeer, and that has given the Manan the opportunity to go down the left-hand side. Now, you can hear with Bradley's engine, he actually lifts, I think, here to avoid fighting through 130R to get back into our slipstream so that he doesn't lose a place to the Alphas. But as we come through 130R, unfortunately for Bradley there, he understeers wide, and that's going to give him slightly dirty tyres and going to give the Alphas the opportunity to go attack him out of this corner. So out of this corner, the Manan very, very strong again, really nice through there. We get a good exit, but Bradley's not the greatest behind us there, and he's actually been overtaken by one of the Alphas. Now, we're going to skip to the end of the race because that was pretty much not much going on there until we get to lap 4 here, when Bradley eventually got past the Alphas again. So you can see he actually overtook an Alfa, and it shows you there is potential with other cars. And now we are on the final lap of this race, and we go over the line there with a 209 without any slipstream, which again highlights that this car is competitive. It's got the pace, and it wasn't even a great lap there. So I really enjoyed this Manan, and I think a lot of other people that like driving the Manan would enjoy driving the Manan around this track more than the Alfa, and it'd be good to see a few more cars taking on this daily race B rather than it just being a field of four-wheel drive Alfas. Now, by the time we got to the end of the lap here, you can see that the Cayman behind us is right in our slipstream. Bradley is a very quick driver, very, very quick driver on Gran Turismo 7, and he is right in our slipstream and pushing us here. So looks like we've got enough of a gap going into 130R that we are going to be able to hold that position. But you can see there, he's right behind us. Make sure we get a good run through there. And again, Manan very quick through them high-speed corners. It's actually give us enough of a gap that we can just get on the brakes without having to defend. And it looks like we're going to take another win, which is going to put us up to 4-0 versus that Meta Alfa. So in the bin for the Alfa, take that Alfa. We take the win again, and 4 different cars beating it. Give them cars a go, everyone. I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, if you did enjoy this video, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.